Ferrari are looking to bounce back yet again after their hot and cold weekend in China, and it seems like the team is ready for the first upgrade of the season, with the hopes of Vasseur being very high after Leclerc identified strict areas in which the car needs to improve in order to catch up with the front. Can we see the SF-25 at the front? And more importantly, how will the matchup between Leclerc and Hamilton turn out to be if they can fight for the win? There is no doubt that Ferrari left a lot of points on the table in the first two races in the season, especially if we're to look at the Chinese GP. Headed from a sprint race that has gone totally in their favour, both of the cars finished P5 and P6 and have been disqualified because of weight limit and rear skid wear breaches. Still, there seems to be a lot of positives headed into the Japanese GP because the performance of the car is supposed to improve to a greater extent thanks to the new floor, which has already been prepared back in Maranello. A new floor is likely to solve a majority of the issues that Ferrari expressed in the past couple of races, primarily because the team had no answers to the setup of the car compared to the sprint race and the main event. The situation looked quite alarming because from one session to another, the car seemed like a different beast, mostly because the team had no idea how to set up the car properly. A huge factor in this lies in the floor as well because of the downforce generation as well as the rear downforce of the car, an area in which the SF-25 had a lot of problems in the slow speed corners. Of course, this would change a lot in Suzuka due to the nature of the circuit, because if we're to look at it properly, the track has only two slow speed corners. Charles Leclerc has been the first one to talk about the massive improvement that the SF-25 made in the high speed corners compared to its predecessor, going on to say, honestly, it's never really one thing. If we look at qualifying in Melbourne, they were very strong compared to us in the last sector, which could be about tyres maybe more than anything. But then if you look at the race, it's completely different, and it's just overall performance where we were just lacking speed, whether it's low or high speed or degradation. It was basically all in one. I know, and I think we know where we need to push in terms of performance for this car. In the high speed corners, I think we did a big step forward. Low and medium speed seems to be the area where we need to work on a little bit more for now. La Gazzetta dello Sport, a publication very close to Ferrari, has gone on to explain a bit further regarding the newest upgrade package in Japan. Paolo Filicetti is the journalist who spoke about this matter, adding, "The project is still immature, but there is potential. Developments are planned for the floor to better manage the ride heights." Helmut Marko has also spoken about the Maranello team, stating that while it seems they are in a lot of trouble now, they are always going to find a solution for everything that's going on in the background. The special advisor of Ferrari refuses to rule them out just yet, and obviously Red Bull is going to fall behind them as well if a miracle doesn't happen with Tsunoda's performance from Japan onwards. So the fears of Marko are quite justified. But what is this upgrade in Japan that we're all eager to see in terms of pace and performance on the SF-25? Considering that the floor is one of the most important generators of downforce in the modern day era, it does look like Ferrari will have a lot to hope for in Suzuka. But of course, the team is now in a downward spiral, and it looks like the situation needs to improve from Japan, because 3 consecutive races in which you have no idea how to be close to McLaren definitely doesn't help your situation at all. The hopes ahead of the Melbourne GP was that Ferrari will be up there with McLaren and a proper 4-man fight, along with Verstappen being the 5th dark horse competitor, would await for us. But that seemed not to be the case, and right now the good news for Ferrari fans is that they shouldn't be disappointed at all. They know the car is quick, and they know it has some bad traits that need to be fixed. This is something that Leclerc has spoken about to a greater extent, saying, "I think in China we were generally quick. We've seen it in the sprint race with Lewis. We saw it towards the end of the stint where I was very strong. All in all, I think we had a very good race car. In the race, I did a step forwards with the car, and I think that made it a lot better also for today. I felt there was a lot more potential. I was destroying the fronts, and 30 points less downforce is a huge amount lost from the front wing. I do not expect a car to be faster like that. Otherwise, we have a problem." Paradoxically, the car was a lot faster with the broken front wing plate than without it, which suggests an area that Ferrari needs to work on in order to understand the behaviour of the car. Be that as it may, there was a huge leap between the performance of Hamilton during the sprint and the main event on Sunday, which did raise some eyebrows as to how the team can avoid these situations in the foreseeable future. And this is precisely what has been talked about by Vasseur in one of the latest interviews regarding the performance of Lewis. Hamilton proved during the Chinese GP that the team can compete at the front and can win races, but they are lacking consistency and understanding of the car to a larger extent. When being asked about Hamilton's constant progression and whether this should be something we'd expect in the remainder of 2025, Vasseur has gone on to say, yes and no. I don't imagine that Hamilton will do a step. I think it's more the usage of the car, that sometimes he's still asking about some functions, and so I think he was much more comfortable, perhaps something that you know when you are under control, but it's not a drama. You didn't ask the same question after the sprint race that he was in front and it was magic, and so it means that we have to stay calm in any situation. It's why yesterday after the sprint race I said that we were not world champion, because I think it will be like this all season with ups and downs. If you have a look after 20 laps, we are all in 4 seconds. It means that we are speaking about 1/10 a lap or 1/10 and half a lap. It means that for different reasons, the good usage of the tyres or whatever reason, balance or so, we will move from P6 to P1 and from P1 to P6. You have tons of examples from the beginning of the season about this. Therefore, we shouldn't be too optimistic about the team absolutely destroying everyone at the front in Suzuka, because of the nature of the track suiting the SF-25 a lot more than it will suit the other cars. But on the other hand, we are just eager to see what Ferrari has prepared in their backpack when it comes to competing at the front. We've been left disappointed a lot, especially after the Chinese GP, where both of the drivers have witnessed a disqualification for something that really wasn't their fault. And throughout the race itself, it was visible that a swap between the drivers would have to happen if Leclerc was to catch up to Russell ahead. However, it was broadcast in sense that Hamilton wasn't really keen to make this swap possible, although if we were to listen to the full radio, we would understand that it's the 7-time world champion, the one who proposed the swap in the first place. This is something that Vasseur has slammed the F1 radio for, and when talking about it to a greater extent, the Frenchman said, I think this is a joke from FOM because the first call came from Lewis. Lewis asked us to swap, but to create the mess around the situation, they broadcast only the second part of the question. We will discuss with them. You can't imagine the number of questions I had about the drivers' collaboration when I came from the garage to here. It's all about the same thing. Is it a mess? I said, no, it's Lewis who asked to swap. Therefore, the situation in Ferrari would have to improve on an intra-team level as well, because while in China we saw a huge leap in the communication between Ferrari and Hamilton, we also need to be more patient in terms of Hamilton ramping up the performance to the absolute maximum. With all this in mind, do you think that Ferrari can bounce back heavily in Japan? And more importantly, do you think that they have what it takes to be on top of the game with the latest upgrade package? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want to know more about the Tsunoda-Lawson saga, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.